We staan al op 27. Ja. Als je 30 hebt, begin je.
Ja.
Dit ben jij, Rob, start voor op tijd of wachten we? Ben jij dat?
Nee.
Ja, ik kan hem weer zien, het is nu weer weg. Chat. Oh nee. Ik moet die chats eigenlijk weg hebben, denk ik. Yeah.
When you collaborate with others, you get challenged. And through that challenge, you get to know new perspective, new way of doing things. And you come across doing things in a different way than the usual, which really expand our perspectives.
What I notice now after 10, 15 years of working with Snific, the partners itself, selecting the good partners is crucial. I see partners who really make the difference in the country itself.
I think one big reason behind that, they are understanding very well the local circumstances, the culture, the needs on the ground.
The personal conversation, how are you doing? And what is happening in your situation? And how are you dealing with the following situation? Because we are struggling with this. These kind of conversations offer a lot of space to understand and to make progress.
What I always try to achieve is to have a personal relationship. If you know the project manager that is connected to the project you are implementing personally, it is again easier to get connection and to get an answer or to get your message across than if you just talk to a kind of anonymous person. So I think the lesson learned is that we should bring back as much as possible the personal connections in communicating.
Il faut être un bon manager pour pouvoir coordonner un projet comme ça. Et j'avoue que c'est une fierté que de diriger un projet, de coordonner plutôt un projet avec autant de partenaires. Ce n'est pas gagné d'avance, c'est un grand défi. Mais le défi, nous sommes en train de le relever. Et c'est ça ce dont je suis le plus fier.
Jij niet hebben dan, omdat we dan gaan, als die bij jou doet, dat we heen en weer lopen.
Good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me. We have a few audio difficulties now. Welcome to this very first Orange Knowledge Program Partner Day session that we are having today. This is the kick-off of a series of events. We had hoped that last March Netherlands for our Partner Day sessions, but instead we have opted to welcome you digitally through this meeting on Zoom. Today we will discuss a few new things. And the topics that will come up later on. Just a few house rules to guide you through the session. Oh, I see that the audio isn't working. Can you hear me now? Is this better? Difficulties with audio. I'm asking technical support teams to help us with increasing the audio. Let's see if this works. Of course, these are always the things that you encounter when you're doing something for the very first time. Let's check again. Does this help?
Try without headphones.
You hear you through both microphones, but not mine. And I will get the word to look. That might be even better. Look, we got to
Yes, of course, of course. Good morning, everyone. Sorry for these technical hiccups, but can you hear me clearly now? And see me? Good. That man sounds clear, I see in the chat box. Good to hear you. Some of the rules now. Your mic has been muted. You can see that, and this entire session will be recorded. And if your connection has a problem, then please turn off your video. When you ask questions, please use the chat box. And also at the end of the meeting, we will send you an evaluation form. So you will be able to give your comments, ideas, but also content to us. And of course, it would be fine if you could share on the social media what you think of these events and what your experiences are. So this is the first session of 8 partner day sessions, which will be concluded in Thursday next. But this is a very interesting one because we look at what we have learned so far. We share the opportunities, but also the huge challenges for the future. And I would like to compliment Nuffic for the choice of their 3 themes in this session, because I think they are well chosen. They're very intelligent, and they give us a lot of food for thought. Let me quickly go through them and give you my own version on the basis of, let's say, 40 years experience in diplomacy and international cooperation. And digitalization for us, for all of us, will be a very important driver for change. And of course, I would have said this before COVID-19, but now with COVID-19, this will only accelerate. The trend in digitalization will accelerate. Globalization will be formed by digitalization, by data. You know, the growth in globalization now doesn't come anymore from products, it comes from data. But also we have to learn differently. And I'm looking forward to the presentation we will hear shortly on blended learning or maybe hybrid learning. And then the combination with food and nutrition. And I'm so happy that nutrition is combined with food, because I still realize in a country, for instance, like Ghana, where you have 1 in every 5 child is chronically malnourished. So there's a lot to do in this field. But of course, climate change will challenge also food production. And then if we realize there is no yet a green revolution in sub-Saharan Africa, where the plots will be smaller, it's an enormous challenge to bring productivity at a higher level. Climate change will bring us opportunities, but especially for the South, more risks. So status quo is not an option. I mean, we have to learn better. We have to do more research. We have to be more creative. And we bring our skills development on a higher level. And then the young one, youth, when we talk about education, of course, we talk about youth. And luckily, more and more children are going to school. But it's not only about numbers, it's also about quality of education. And we see there's a mismatch between the required skills and the demands of the labor market. A college degree is no guarantee for a reasonable job, especially in the formal sector. Now, our program was mentioned, was defined, and got a specific color, which is orange. And orange is, of course, the color of the Netherlands, the House of Orange, the Dutch soccer team who won luckily last night. But the Dutch culture maybe is also an interesting culture in the world of digitalization, where we need an open culture, where you can challenge authorities, when you can challenge power, where the power distance between an authority and those that depend on authority is small. And that's why I'm quite optimistic about the coming years of the Netherlands' participation in capacity development. Now, so much for me. For the moderator, I would like to give the floor now to, not the floor, it's the mic, to Tom Lauren of Twente University, who will start his introduction on the first theme of our session, which is about digitalization.
Good morning, everybody. We are going to present something about digitalization in higher education. This is based partly on the results of a survey that has been done on the past experiences since COVID-19 started. Next, please. What you see here is the building of ITC. ITC actually is the Faculty of Geoinformation Science and Earth Observation. And since 2010, we're a faculty of the University of Twente. Next, we do, as every faculty in the university, we do education. But we also do research. Specifically meant for capacity development. And then as a third primary process, we do capacity development. And this is actually the original mandate that ITC received when it was founded. ITC is actually catering for students from outside Europe. This is part of our mandate. We offer education and training in the use of spatial information for all sorts of planning. Here you see an overview of the application areas that we cover. But in all of them, we use geographic information systems and Earth observation as the basic technology. And by the way, we've been founded in 1950, so this year we are celebrating our 70th anniversary. When you look at this map, you can see very clearly where our students have come from over the years. They come from all over the world. And at the moment, all our students are in ITC, in spite of all the travel bans and difficulties. But we have at the moment 54 nationalities in the building. And now I would like to give the mic to Justine Blanford for her results.
Hello. Start my video. I'll try. Let's see. Oh, I have a different background. I'm sorry about that. This is from a global conversations thing that we had recently. So ignore that, but a little bit about the results. So as we know, the with COVID-19, all universities shut down. At University of Twente, the university was shut down for 1 week to allow staff to prepare, and then all courses were resumed online. Next slide, please. All education went from face-to-face to online. Next slide, please. And now we're in, as the COVID keeps returning, and before vaccinations become prevalent, we're in the process now of somewhere between a hybrid and online. So we're oscillating between these. Next slide, please. And what that's going to look like in the future will depend on what happens and different institutes and their student populations. So these oscillations will go up and down somewhere between face-to-face and online. Next slide, please. And what that will look like is still to be determined. So it could be 20% online, 90%, 80% face-to-face, depending on different institutes. Next slide, please. So I think one of the questions that a lot of people have been asking is online here to stay. Next slide, please. We ran a survey in July and August, and we broke it down into these different sections. Can you click through them, please? Keep going. Starting with the background, teaching and learning, interactions, and then thinking about the future. Next slide. I'm not going to go into too much detail of all these questions, but I'll give you some of our key findings. Next slide. So one of the things we wanted to figure out is what were things that we could change to enhance teaching and learning, and what was a little bit beyond our control. So one of the things that is a little bit beyond our control is internet connectivity. Can you keep clicking through? Yes, perfect. So most of our students were in Enschede. A small percentage went home. We don't know where the home is, but for most of our students, access to material, because internet connectivity was good, was good. There weren't any problems there. So students were able to complete coursework and staff were able to deliver education. There were some issues when students went were back home. So in countries where there is poor internet connection or time zone differences or things to do with policy. So access to infrastructure or hardware, disk space where information is stored at the university, or due to international policies where there are restrictions to access or use those software in particular countries. As for learning, students felt that they successfully completed their courses. They received good feedback from instructors. They felt supported by instructors and satisfied. And would most students be willing to take more courses online? Next slide, please. Yes, for the most part, they did feel that they wanted to take more courses online. Next slide, please. Students liked the flexible study environment, but they did miss the interactions with other students, those face-to-face interactions. Next slide, please. So how did staff feel about teaching and learning? They found it challenging moving into an online environment, but they were very motivated to teach. Next slide, please. They found new solutions to teach their courses. They had to learn new technologies, and they took it as an opportunity to update course content, try new things, a lot of which they'll be using in their future courses. Anyone who had previous teaching experience in the online environment found that it was useful for them. So overall, do staff like teaching online? Next, can you click? Thank you. There was mixed. There was more people who were neutral about it, with some strongly agreeing and strongly disagreeing. Next slide. So what were some of the challenges? Interacting. Next slide. Yep. Interacting online was challenging. So group projects and practicals. Next slide. Interacting with students, staff found interacting with students challenging and not very enjoyable. Next slide. And the side here, you can see lots of different types of software were used in interactions. Students didn't have as students across the board neither felt, some felt strongly, some didn't feel strongly about their interactions with instructors. Overall, students found it harder to interact with other students. Next slide. And part of this might have been because instructors and staff were more available to help students outside of normal office hours. Next slide. Students spent way too much time on video, but they liked having the video lectures so that they could revisit lectures. So next slide. Overall, we need to find a balance between lectures, activities, and interactions as we think of designing for online education, and how to balance that with synchronous and asynchronous activities. So next slide. So again, we come back to this question as to what is the future going to look like between hybrid and online? And I'll return that back to you, Tom.
Can you click for a few times? Yeah, one more. Okay, thank you very much. Well, we've already seen changes taking place in the educational landscape for quite a while, where traditionally people would actually enroll in one institution and graduate from there. This has already changed quite a bit over time. Education is offered in partnership very often with other institutions. That allows for exchange of students and staff, gives a broader experience, and also has a broader offering in teaching topics. So in many cases, this is leading to double degrees. And one of the programs that has especially pushed this development forward is the Erasmus program of the European Union, where a lot of experiments have taken place to do this. And what we see happening at the moment is that people are following courses through e-learning, online education, which basically, to a certain extent, makes education location independent. Next, please. When you look at it like this, and this situation has of course been sped up considerably with under the current COVID situation, we are working towards a balanced system of education where parts are done online, either in the home institution or with other institutions. And part of it can be done face to face. And this is what the examples that I'm showing you here are based on educational partnerships that we have with other institutions, but it can also very well be done in a project context. So on the left, you see one example. This is a collaboration that we are having at the moment with the NASA Servier network, where we are developing a Servier Academy, which is a virtual campus with institutions contributing in all continents, basically. On the top right, you see the education partner network that we have as ITC, and we are offering both double degree master courses, but also technical diploma courses in this network. And this is done partly online and partly by physical exchange, actually. At the bottom, you see two projects where we have established online networks where people can make use of platforms to exchange materials, to follow courses, to take online classes. And sometimes this is done on an institutional basis, like in the land administration network, but it's sometimes also done in very simple project environments where people have nothing more than a simple tablet to follow courses and to access information. Next, please. Yep, that's so far our contribution, and I'm looking forward to taking any questions that you might have.
Great. Justine and Tom, very much. Thank you very much for an excellent and I would say also a very rich presentation. It gives us a lot of food for thought, and for me especially the difference between blended and hybrid learning was something new. Now my first question relates to the digital divide. Of course, we see that there are many opportunities through digitalization. But in a world where we are afraid of increasing inequality between countries, between continents, but also between national states and societies, I mean, have you given it a thought? Have you, in your programming, do you think about how to counteract this in order that we don't leave anyone behind, which is which is a session which will follow in the rest of the week. So the digital divide.
Yeah, well, this digital divide absolutely exists, and in order to have access to online forms of education and training, that you do need a certain minimum of facilities. I mean, electricity and a working phone line, those are actually the basic things that you would need. When we do this, our natural counterparts are universities, polytechnics, training institutions. But these training institutions in turn also have other organizations in their own network. So in a stepwise approach, you can actually come very close to covering basically every level in the national qualification frameworks of the countries where we do this. Facilities, equipment doesn't have to be very expensive or sophisticated. So basic electricity and phone lines would already be enough. A simple laptop and a beamer in a community home or in a library or in a cooperative, farmers cooperative, is sufficient to provide group access to whatever you would like to share with people. We are currently working on one example where we have actually provided a simple laptop and a beamer to the community that we are working with. One of our alumni actually went there to explain people how this works and how to set it up. So making use of also our alumni network, building on that makes it much more accessible than what we thought would be possible in the first place. And one thing, and that is beyond the technical facilities that you need, a very important change that has taken place, especially over the last few months, is in our minds, because we are at the moment doing things that a year ago people would have thought absolutely impossible. And I can assure you that even when the COVID situation with all its limitations is behind us, we are definitely not going to go back to the face-to-face, 100% face-to-face situation that we had before. So in a way, it is also our own perspective on what can be done in teaching and learning. Okay. And that's actually much more than you think.
Yeah, thanks very much. Well, I'm glad you are reasonably optimistic about this, although we know it's a challenge. Another challenge, my second question, maybe to Justine, is the what does it require, especially from the teachers? I mean, of course, we are always very impatient, but how much time do we need? How quickly can people adopt skills to teach and use these different media?
That's a very good question. So from our survey, we can see that a lot of teachers took this as an opportunity to learn many new things. The university already had in place an education unit. So we have a learning specialist that the different staff could go to if they had particular requirements, for example, such as making videos and types of skill sets needed for that. The university also has a central education, the Center for Expertise in Learning and Teaching, that does have different types of workshops available. As part of our survey, we also included a section on there to ask what type of skill sets different staff wanted to learn more, so that we could start to figure out and identify those knowledge gaps so that we could help them in the future. And one of the other things that we're working on right now is setting up some sort of community of practice internally, so that staff can listen to each other, they can share their experiences and learn from each other, and have it set up in a way that they feel they're getting rewarded for the efforts that they're putting into this. Because one thing I'm very happy to hear, because I've been teaching online for a decade. So one thing I was very happy to hear about is that the effort and time required in teaching online. In the past, a lot of people thought teaching online was really easy, but there are slight differences. Your role is different to as in a face-to-face. So it's learning what those new expectations are and being explicit in those expectations. So we're trying to set up and make sure that different staff feel supported so that they can learn the skills moving forward.
I feel it's quite useful for programming a next stage of maybe a next stage of OKP. Let's go quickly to the second theme, which is on. Sorry, we've got the quiz is first. That's of course, sorry about this. We have the participation of the audience. Finally, we have two sets of questions for you, and with four different answers, and you cannot use them both or tick 3 boxes. I mean, you have to make a choice, especially when you consider the biggest challenge, what you just heard, when it comes to education and digitalization. Is it infrastructure? Is it curriculum reform? Is it accreditation? Or what we just tackled, the digital divide? Please give us your views on this. Thanks very much for the answers. And we have a second set of questions for you, which is about opportunities. Could I have the second slide, please, on Paul? What do you consider the biggest opportunity? I mean, when there are challenges, there's always an opportunity.
If only one poll for you, and later on 2 more. So this is the one we got for this moment.
Well, if this is technically too difficult, then let's move on. And of course, you have opportunities in the chat box and in the evaluation to say something about what you consider as the biggest opportunity with regard to digitalization. Okay, without further ado, let me introduce Katrien Terwisga from the University of Wageningen. I would say the world famous University of Wageningen, who will introduce the theme food and nutrition, and especially food and nutrition security. It will be followed by comments and a reflection of one of Hashi Abdulraif from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, who's active in the Inclusive Green Growth Department. Katrien, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. Can you hear me?
Yes, all the way. Wageningen. Please